So the first topic for today will be how to set your entries for the ArcGIS competition. One of the issues we've had over the years that we've done this is that if entries are not shared properly, then the judges are not able to open them, and that means the judges can't judge them. So once somebody outside your organization wants to see these items, they have to be able to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to the org where I've got all of the information that I did regarding Faribault and the storybook. And you can see I've got a couple of web maps. I've got a couple of apps, one of which I won't share because it was just a practice one. I've got layers that I've created. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see this little lock on every single one. What that means is you are the only person in the world who can look at that map other than somebody who happens to be an organization administrator. So the first thing you want to do is to set all of these so they can be viewed by everybody. So at this point, you should probably clean up your folder, just get rid of anything that you really don't need anymore. So I've got this practice application I could probably delete, but I'm just going to leave it there. So if we go to the top of the folder page, we see the word title. It now highlights every single one of those items. And at the top of the screen, I have a share button. So basically it says, okay, who would you like to share these with? Now, you only want to give access. You don't want people to access and update. That would not be good. That means they can change what you did. So you're just going to give people access. That means they can see them. So we click on that. And now what you're going to see is this would be a list of all the groups that are inside your organization. Then if I click this button, that means only people inside the organization would be able to see it. But what I want to do is go to click everyone. That means I'm now making it public. And when I click OK, takes a little bit of time. What you want to see is the little world globe over here. That means all of these items now have been shared publicly, and unless there's a conflict with some of the content, everybody should be able to see them. So we're not going to worry about that kind of a conflict right now. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to stop my sharing right now. I'd like you to take the next 5-10 minutes, go to your account, log in, find the folder where you have all of those items, and set them all for everyone. Okay, and when you're for entries, that means not just the story map, but the web map or web maps that you are using in the story map all have to be shared publicly. And if you make layers that you bring in yourself or that you get from other places that you've added to the map from outside, they also have to be shared publicly. The other thing we want to learn how to do is how to prevent one of your items or any of your items from accidentally being deleted, okay? So I'm gonna go back to my list here. So I checked this one this morning, the map that I made on location of Rochester, Faribault, and the Twin Cities. I want to protect that from accidentally being deleted. On the far right-hand side, rather than click on Faribault location, if you go to the 3 dots, there's a reason they're there. These are all the different things you can do. You can go to the item details page. You can open it in the map viewer. And I don't know, these are things we're not currently using, or you could create a presentation which we haven't talked about and probably maybe should have, but we're going to go to the item details page. So on the item details page, I've created a little bit of a description here. You will note that the layers that I've added to the map are already here and identified. To the far right, I've got 3 buttons: overview, usage, and settings. If I click usage, you'll just see how many times probably I've looked at the map. Every time I do, it gets a peek there, and then how much time was spent looking at it. But the one we want to set is called, click as settings. So at the very top of the list, we're not going to worry about making it authoritative or deprecated, but we want to delete protected. So you can see right now, this is not checked. So if I click delete item, it would actually delete it. But if I click this, it now cannot be deleted accidentally. And in fact, I don't think if you were an administrator doing a mass deleting of all content in your org, if this is delete protected, I don't think it can be deleted. And then the last thing you have to do is save it. So at this point, it tells me item has been successfully updated. So I have now protected that item from being accidentally deleted. So
all right, is it possible to select all and do kind of a mass version of that?
Not that I'm aware of. I think it's a one at a time. Because you have to do it through the item detail page of each one. So what I would typically do if a student is working on a map and a story map, one of the first things I'd have them do is once they open it up and you say, okay, this is the web map, let's learn how to set the delete protection and do it right away. It's kind of like making a folder. So if you're not concerned about it being deleted at some point, or in fact think you will actually want to delete it, then you just leave it the way it is. And then when it comes time to delete it, you can delete it. So for instance, if I were to go to my content list here now, and if I wanted at this point, let's say, okay, I want to delete it. If I clicked on this, and now it gives me a warning, are you sure you want to delete it? Then you have to, in other words, I'm not doing it by accident, I'd be doing it on purpose here. So you do get a warning. I think you may actually get that warning even if it's not protected, but there's no way to accidentally delete it. So that would be the next step. Would you like to have time and go do that with one of your, might not be a bad idea, just go to one of your web maps or your story map and go through that process. So you've done it once anyway. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and why don't So the next thing we need to do is prepare our information for our item details page. So I've provided you with this document. The link for it is on the Zoom document right here, item details page. So this is Zoom session 4. If you click on this link, it'll open up for you. And what you need to do is make a copy of it. So it's set for view only. So you go up to the file menu, you make a copy, rename it here, use your name in it someplace, maybe add the name of your story map or something, and then you will have a copy. And then when you get that done, we'll talk briefly about what it should be included and what it should look like. So I'm going to pause the video right now, and you can do that. recording. Now that you have a copy, what I want you to do is go back to the Zoom document here. These are the categories of information, some kind of an introduction. If you're familiar with National History Day, students do what they call a process paper in which they describe the process of how they made their National History Day project. This is essentially that same idea. So, you know, how'd you come up with the idea? Did you change it as you went along? What was your research, et cetera, et cetera? We're looking for some geographic analysis. Were you able to find some geographic patterns when you did this? And then you need to document where you got your information, what websites, what are the links for the images and videos, any print resources, map layers, and then student created data. So I'm going to open this link right here. This will take me to the item detail page for the story map now that I made for Faribault. So here's, it's not called introduction here. It's, you know, here's a description. So this is, when I originally made this, it was to be used in a 6th grade classroom. So I kind of described what it was going to be used for. And then this would have been copy and pasted information. Websites that I used for Faribault, Wikipedia, Historical Society, Woolen Mills, all the different sites that I found. Any images or videos that I found, I was able to create those. So the first thing the judges do before they even look at the story map is they go right to this page, whether it's at the state level or out in California where they're judging for the national competition. So the first thing they want to look at is, okay, what was the thought behind this? What was the research level? Where did they find their information? And then one of the things that we're going to have to work on a little bit is getting the map layers that were used. The problem with a story map is it does not document the layers that were used in the web maps because it doesn't, that's something that it doesn't do. So this is something we're going to have to go to our web maps and find and copy and paste into the document. So we are going to practice that. So I'm just going to take you through the process of how I did that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
This is Molly. Is it okay to just have the links to all of your sources, your images, or do you need to have the full citation?
Just the links is all you need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And we've never had any instruction beyond what I've just told you, like they wanted more detail. They're just kind of looking at, okay, where did they get the information?
But then, like, if you did use, let's say, a book,
then you could add that as a separate item. Print,
okay,
you know, print resources, and then you would want to kind of do a,
you know, who would actually use
bibliographic, yeah. So one of the judges this spring said, you know, I'd like to know where the students are getting all these layers that they're putting on the maps. And I'm going like, okay, I know why they don't know, because in a story map, the items detailed page does not include that information. The process that I had to use in order to do that, going back to my content. So this is my, I'm going to take this one because it's got more layers in it. If I go to my web map about Faribault and click on the item details. Now kids this is not intuitive. This is like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why doesn't the story map do this for me? Well, because it doesn't. So under the description here of just the web map itself, all the layers that I added are now listed here, along with, if I click on them, it'll actually take me to documentation, because somebody might say, oh, that looks interesting. I'd like to know a little bit about that layer. So if somebody clicks, it's going to take them to the item details page basically for that layer, where they can find out more about that layer if they want to. And this also shows the degree of research that the student has done. So basically all we're going to do is we're going to go down, we're going to copy these. We're going to go to the outline. And I'm just going to put layers. And I'm going to paste them, and there they are. So now when I copy and paste that into the item details page for the actual story map itself, the judges will be able to see all the different layers that you use. The ones that are black, there's no link that takes them. Either they haven't been published. I'm not exactly sure. In this case, I'm guessing these were layers that probably I made. So what I might want to do with those is separate those out, or just identify it as student created layer. So that way the judges will know, oh, the student made that layer. So that's the basic process. So when I'm done, I will have my item detail page for my story map. This is, I'm still back in the web map here. If I go back to my content, once that Google Doc is all completed, I go to my item details page. And I can't do anything right now. I have to click the edit button over here. And now basically I've got like a document. And I would have gone to my outline over here, copied and pasted everything that I had there. I would go to here, put the cursor right here and put paste, and everything goes in as is. The links are all active and everything is there. And then at the bottom, you just click save. And now you've got a fully complete item details page with information about how you did the project, where you got your information, and the layers that you used in the entry. And this is going to demonstrate to the judges, obviously, the extent of your research and how you're using these tools. So does anybody have a question on that process right now? Okay. And I'm going to pause. So the first question is, did the workshop meet your expectations? And I think we'll just go in order. Jeremy, you want to make any comment on that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We did do the mapping contest last year, but it was mostly Jess Winkler that's administered that with students. And I found this information so helpful. It's eased my fears about approaching it this year, and I'm way more excited about the competition this year than I was last year.
And that's what I like to hear. Yeah, and I know Jess worked with like a handful of kids. She did not attempt to try and do it with an entire class or a large number of students. And if it's your first time through, I'd kind of recommend that. Find the 5 to 10 kids in your grade level that you think really might be interested in doing it, then figure out a way that you can cut out some time to get them started on it before school, after school. I mean, there's, options.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely. We offered it as an enrichment activity just for one grade level last year.
mm-hmm.
And we had about 10 or 11 kids, and this year we're going to open it up to all 3 grade levels. So I think we'll have significantly higher numbers, but our comfort level is much higher too.
Great. Molly, Apple Valley, how about you? What are you
Burnsville.
thinking?
Yeah. But yeah, or Burnsville.
Burnsville, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Very close. Yeah, no, it definitely, I liked the setup of the one in-person session and then the multiple other sessions. I know it's hard to, commit to like maybe like a 1 week workshop. So this was a good like setup of doing it this way and then having some time in between to work on different parts of it and then just kind of doing it at your own pace. I think I like learned all the steps of doing the mapping contest well, and I haven't done it in the past before. One thing, and I think we're just kind of like talking about this, one thing I think would be nice to talk about maybe like in a future session or not in a future session, but like next year is like different ways of setting it up. Like when do you introduce it? When, how do you introduce it? I teach like AP Human Geography and regular Human Geography, so I'm still kind of working through in my head, how do I want to introduce this? Do I want to do it with this, small group of kids, or introduce it first as kind of just like, everyone's going to create a web map, but then whoever's interested can then take it a step further and do the mapping contest. So I don't know, I'm still kind of working through like how it's going to actually fit into my classroom, especially with all the AP content, but I think I have learned so much through this and it's made it a lot more accessible. So.
There's a teacher in Sauk Rapids by the name of Brianne Wetker, and what she did, I can't remember what course it was linked to, but she had everybody do a web map and a story map based on Minnesota just as a classroom activity. Mm-hmm. Then she picked the 4 or 5 out of that group that she thought did everything they were supposed to do. You can imagine if you do it with 60 or 70 kids, you're going to have a bunch of them get half-done maps and incompleteness, right. And I never finished my story map. But you're going to get a handful of kids are going to do everything. And so that's how she picked. She had everybody do it, but there was no pressure like they had to be in the contest. They got graded on it, whatever they actually did. But then she just took her best ones and submitted those as in the competition. So that's another way to approach it. If you think it's worthwhile for all the kids to learn how to make a web map and how to make a story map, and you think Minnesota is an appropriate topic, to me, it would be a perfect topic for the 6th grade Minnesota Studies classes around the state. So that's another way to approach it. Is that helpful at all?
No, yeah, that is. I think I'm going to, like right now, my idea is that I'm going to have them, they have to use some sort of human geography topic related to Minnesota, which obviously you can really use anything, and have them maybe just start with the mapping. And then like everyone is required to like create a map. I don't know. Yeah. And then like maybe and then go that route, start by creating your map and then see how those maps go and see who is interested in it and who is, potentially wants to take it further. So,
yep. No, that
is a good idea to kind of then see where kids take it and then pull out the ones that are doing well.
Okay. Yeah. And it's, now I'm going to jump to Lori, because Lori has one class of gifted students in her 8th grade course at Olson Middle School in Bloomington. Of course, she had the national winner this year. Lori, do you want to just talk about what it's like doing it with an entire class of kids with the competition in mind?
Sure, yes. And let's not forget Championship School. Thank you for mentioning that again. No, I'm just kidding.
Championship teacher.
Not at all. Only because you're there backing me every step. I think the best way that it has gone so far was the year that you helped do that Vikings project, so that the kids had done. So I'll backtrack. So I only do the project with my gifted class. It's usually about 25 kids, and it is a requirement for them. I have them do some ArcGIS work just to get them familiar with it. I have them do a couple story maps leading up, very simple ones. Like one is a trip around the world, and they put a map note in just showing different locations around the world that they want to live in and, you know, whatnot. So we start really simply to wet their whistle, and then about, let's see, I think it was March that we focused on the project itself. So it had basically March and April to work on the entries. Last year, since I was gone first trimester, I didn't do a second project to lead them into it. And I think that it suffered as a result. Their entries, they just didn't have enough experience with ArcGIS, Abby aside, the winner. So I would definitely recommend, you know, tiny little small lead up projects, just having them use it, and just like you did, build some skills, show how to make a route, show how to, you know, just so that they know what's possible, so that they can even start to wrap their heads around picking a topic. And that's where I think my kids, especially this year, struggled. They didn't have enough knowledge about ArcGIS, my fault, because we just didn't play with it enough to really understand, you know, what could I do with this, or what would work to, you know, do some spatial analysis with. So I started to jibber jabber there. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, no, you did. And yeah, I mean, when you're out on maternity leave, I think you have a legitimate excuse.
I was busy.
Lori referenced an activity that she used to do with her kids without ArcGIS, and the premise of the exercise was the NFL is thinking of expanding and adding a new city for a professional football team. And then the kids, using atlases and other kind of materials, tried to come up with a city, a recommendation. And of course, you make it fun, and you make the logo for the team and what the name is going to be, and justify, you know, why you're going to locate it in certain places. Well, when you do that and you're using atlases, you're looking at vegetation and climate and things like that the NFL doesn't necessarily look at too closely. So we worked together, and when I saw it, I said, Lori, this is like perfect for an ArcGIS online project. So they can actually approach it the way the NFL approaches it, and they can do things like pick their city, and we use a little parameter, said, okay, we're going to get a drive time of an hour, 2.5 hours. Like, we don't think people are going to drive more than 2.5 hours to come to a football game. So you put a pin in the center of the city that you're thinking about, you get the drive time, and now you have the defined area, and now you can enrich that layer. You can find out how many people are there, how much money they make, who watches Monday Night Football, who watches college football, what other teams are in the area, and then try and justify to the NFL that you have a good city. So if anybody is interested in that idea, we've got it pretty well worked out in terms of instruction, because it's kind of a fun activity for kids. And like Lori said, it gets them into it to begin to see some of the possibilities of what you can do. Kevin and Mary, you're at the same school. I don't know who wants to go first. If you're planning to coordinate, or what, are you both? I'll let, who wants to go first? Kevin, go ahead.
I can go first. I signed up for this course simply because I was curious on what the software was all about. So I didn't sign up as far as what a story map is. I guess about 10 years ago, I was using ArcGIS 3 in my classroom. And then due to all of the poor technology we had, I gave up on it. And then I was moved to the high school. And so when I got sent back to the middle school for this year and I saw this course advertised on Mage, I just signed up to figure out what's new with GIS. So as far as an introduction to the online, this course met my needs there. Due to our situation at Centennial Middle School, I'm not really sure if we could do a storyboard even after school hours because of the way things are set up. We have to work through the YMCA. I approached it to them about that. He just kind of raised his eyebrows. So I'm not sure where to go. But being that I'm new to the middle school, maybe Mary can take it over and she can kind of explain what's possible and what's not possible.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary. You have to unmute your mic.
I'm doing. Okay. I signed up for this course because of you, Kevin. So thank you very much. I did use a standard template on the shipwrecks of Lake Superior last year, and that just piqued my interest in this whole program. It's amazing information. It's been very, very helpful to me to get this information and learn the program. The program is not real user friendly for me, so it's taken me some, time to get familiar with, how to actually develop all of this. But I feel like I have a general idea of it. My concerns right now is I feel like I have a good handle on everything except the uploading of images. And you mentioned the Survey 123. I'm not familiar with that, so I'm looking to get more familiar with that.
Yeah, one big thing I want to bring out that this course was helpful for me with is introducing me to geo-inquiries. And now that I'm working on my new middle school curriculum, I've added 9 of them into it. The only problem is I don't know if we'll have access to computers to do it, but we can always do it on the screen, using the teacher's computer, and do it as a class.
You can.
But the disadvantage of Centennial is it's lacking money, and we don't have the technology. And I know they're trying to find creative ways to do it. Maybe something will come up in the next 10 years. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. One thing I'm curious about that I was hoping would also be included was about the analysis. It just piques my interest, what that can do and cannot do, the analysis part of it. So maybe I missed it. It was already perhaps brought up, but.
I just didn't try and get into the analysis tools, but that's something we could definitely do as an add-on, like just create a video that you could watch, or just have an additional Zoom session sometime that people are interested can learn how to use some of the analysis tools.
I went over to the Blaine GIS people at the city of Blaine, and she introduced me to the analysis tools. It's pretty well done because it gives you an explanation on how to do it, and you can just kind of go through reading the explanations right on the software itself. One thing I think we really need to learn how to do is when we take our own photographs and we want to put them in a web map, where on earth do we put them so it works? I spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure this out and just finally gave up. So.
Yeah, and Kevin, I've had the same experience. So if you go online and find an image like we went through, you can download it and then upload it to a story map. If you want the image to appear inside of a pop-up on a map, so when I click on a city or something, the logo or some picture shows up, then you need a URL for that image. That's a secure and legitimate image URL. And if you've taken your own pictures and want to use those, that means you have to find a service someplace on the internet that will take your image and convert it into a URL. And to be honest with you, I have no expertise in that. Shauna, do you have any expertise in that area?
Well, there's a couple ways, Kevin, that's a really good question. And I have so many questions given what you guys have just said. That's a tough one. You can make, with story maps, you can upload them right to the story map. Jim's right, you can't upload them right to a web map. Where you can store them to get a URL, Flickr is one place, but I know with students you're not going to use Flickr, but for your own things, you can make a Flickr account and it pulls right into to ArcGIS. It's great. It works really well. Story Map Tour, that other template, works really well just to upload your own images. And if the images have been taken on your phone and they have a geolocation on them, it'll pop them right to the right place where they're supposed to be. So that's handy. You can also upload images right to ArcGIS Online. If you're in your content area, you can do add and you can upload an image right to there and use it in places, but it doesn't help for the pop-ups. No, so, yes, it does. Yes, it does. You can do that. And maybe you should do that. That's a whole separate, you upload it, you have to publish it, and then you get a URL so you can do it that way.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like that would be worthy of a short 30-minute video where we could take them through the process and the analysis tools as well.
Can I ask Mary a quick question? Mary, where did you hear about the shipwrecks geo inquiry?
Turn your mic on, Mary.
I heard about it from one of my students, that was very interested in it. Yes, it would have been an ideal year last, school year to do the contest, because I had someone right from the get-go, from the very first week of class, that inquired about it, and if I knew anything about it, and I said no. However, I'd look into it, and I did, and I was able to find the shipwreck online then through some research.
Wow.
We did that as a example, as an introduction, and then I got connected with the people to get an account at school, which there's a lot of red tape to go through at our
Yes.
school district, as
Everybody's.
it's referring to. But it was interesting. I went up to Bayfield, Wisconsin. They are using it, for their city, and it was very, very interesting. Yeah, so it's right in my area where I'm vacationing for the summer. So
Well,
lots of people are using this program. So I found it, extremely useful and very intriguing. So thank you very much. I thought you've done a wonderful job.
well, thank you. It's very nice to hear that. I really wonder where your student heard about it, but it's really nice to hear. I'll let the people know who put that. I wrote the questions, so I would love any feedback if you have feedback. But also tell the people who pulled the data together that you used it. So thank you.
Yes,
Okay, I'm
and
done.
I will get back to you on that. Thank you.
Well, this has been extremely helpful for us to hear your feedback. If you have any other suggestions on topics, you can put them in an email. If something pops into your mind, say, I'd really like to learn more about this or that. How many of you, I know some of you have for sure, how many were able to, like Mary, for instance, did you find that the videos of the Zoom sessions were helpful in terms of learning how to do the topics that we were covering?
In my opinion, this is Kevin, the videos are the way to go, because you can work at your own pace. You can stop and pause, go back, and then stuff that you really get, you can just keep on going forward instead of waiting for someone else to get something. The videos are more convenient for a student. And then if there could be a bulletin board to pop up questions that the instructor can answer, in a timely fashion, that would be the way to go. Kind of like an online course.
Yeah, no, that's kind of where I think we would like to head. Kevin, I appreciate that comment, because my thoughts were pretty much the same. We've gone to this format because at the national level, where they train teachers in a program called TG3, which if you're really liking learning more about this, you might want to consider doing that next summer. It's 2 6-hour sessions. It's online. And when I did it and Shauna did it in 2016, we had to fly to California. We had 5 days in a row of nonstop training. To be honest with you, by the time we left and got home, we probably forgot half of what they taught us, because we didn't have what Kevin's talking about. You learn something with this technology. If you learn something, you right now need to go out and play with it and learn, and then maybe go back and review the video one more time. So Kevin, I think your idea is a perfect one for how we should proceed in the future. We ought to come up with a programmed curriculum that's geared to either the MAP contest, or it's geared to doing certain things that teachers want to do, like using Survey 1, 2, 3, and then you can go ahead and implement them at your own pace, as you say, which I think is really important.
But I think the discussion is important too. So if there's a bulletin board where you can put up a question or a comment, and then other people can reflect on it and comment back, the combo, the two together work really well. I get a lot out of just listening to other people and their questions, because they're quite often questions I never would have come up with, but the answers are worth knowing.
Great. Anybody else want to add anything before we move on to the next topic here? We're almost ready to wrap up.
Jim, can I just share? There's a website that we're in the process of, that we're in the process of putting together, that has the geo inquiries on it, and we'll have Jim's new geo inquiry, as well as posting about like Educator Day in October, as well as GeoFest and some other things. So I'm just putting it in the chat so you can go ahead and take a look at that. It's still not fully fleshed out, but it's got a lot of good things on it. So.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. So we're basically down to the last couple items. For those of you that haven't had a chance to look at the website from last year's contest, I've got it posted right here, and this will give you a pretty good picture. What I did was I used map series story map, and I used the accordion story map. So this is probably going to disappear eventually. Maybe it'll be incorporated somehow or another into the new one, but it's just a series of tabs that you can scroll down, how to get started, how do you register your school, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to kind of work your way through this, you can see some of the topics we've covered are also included here. So this might be a good place to maybe store videos as well. So we could have a set of videos built into a story map, and that could be a potential way of conducting a learning. Oh, and Shauna just put in the Minnesota Geo inquiries. The other thing I wanted to encourage you, and I'd like people to let me know, where did I put that tab? I thought I had it up here. Now I'm going to reopen it. So every year this MAGE conducts what they call a GeoFest. So I've got the link. You can open it up. It's Saturday the 26th. Goes basically from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. Breakout sessions. There'll be a list of those coming up. It's a $50 fee to be there, and that includes your lunch. So if some of you kind of first come, first serve, say, I would like to be there and participate in the kickoff of the 2020 map contest. Lori, I'm going to see if I can get Abby and her mother to show up again. I think that would be pretty powerful to have them be there. And I'm hoping that Lori could be there too. So that's another thing that you, if you're interested, I would highly recommend. There's a lot of good things. I'm